Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. And also, the Search for the Ancient Bauble Kickstarter has launched, so make sure you go check that out. The Kickstarter campaign will last for 30 days, and after that, the playmat will no longer be available for purchase. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, Day 5 of Modern Horizons 2 spoiler season marches on. But if you missed the Day 4 spoiler of the brand new Mardu Elder Dragon, make sure you check that episode out. Or if you missed my episode on the cute but deadly Monkey Pirate Commander, make sure you check that one out as well. And yes, you heard me correctly, a Monkey Pirate. And also this morning, if you missed my episode on Esper Sentinel, potentially White's Rhystic Study, make sure you check that episode out. Many are already starting to call this Rhystic Buddy, but is that an accurate description? But don't go watch those episodes just yet, because you've got to finish watching this episode on Kaldra Compleat. That's right, we have ourselves a very powerful Phyrexian Kaldra, which is a very, 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 very scary thing. Just how scary? Well, let's jump into it. Kaldra Compleat is a legendary artifact equipment that costs 7 and it costs 7 to equip. It has Living Weapon, which means when this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 black germ creature token, then attach this to it. It also has equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, Haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. So there's actually a lot of things going on, so let's break it down. First off, since this has Living Weapon, it starts off equipped to a creature already with that 0/0 germ. So although it does have a high equip cost, it's already equipped to at least something. Secondly, much like Darksteel Plate, which is an incredibly popular card in Commander, this not only has Indestructible, but it grants indestructibility to the creature that it's equipping. So obviously that makes it incredibly hard to deal with that creature, because you just can't easily remove the equipment to remove that creature. So generally your opponents are going to need an exile effect to get rid of this. Now, even though this is 7 mana, which is quite a bit, you are already getting a 5/5 First Strike, Trampling, Indestructible, Hasty, whenever it hits something, it goes away kind of thing. So obviously, although the little germ is a 0/0, it's quite a mighty little germ when this is attached to it. But obviously, moving this onto something else can be even more impactful. 7 mana is a lot to do that, but yeah, you can make an absolute beast out of something and protect them in the process. So once it hits the board, Kaldra Compleat is going to be an equipment that makes a huge impact on the game. Now, actually, I probably should have started off with this, but it's kind of too late to go back now, so I'm just going to bring it up here. But in case you don't know what Kaldra or who Kaldra is, here we go. Quite a long time back in the Mirrodin block, we got 3 cards with Helm of Kaldra, Shield of Kaldra, and Sword of Kaldra. And you might recognize each of these in the art of Kaldra Compleat. Though instead of being surrounded by fire, they're attached to a gross germ kind of thingy. Regardless, each of these pieces essentially makes up the different characteristics of Kaldra. The Helm gives First Strike, Trample, and Haste. The Shield gives all of the pieces of equipment indestructible, and the equipped creature indestructible too. And the Sword gives +5/+5, and whenever the equipped creature deals damage to a creature, exile that creature. Now obviously, yes, that's a slight difference, because if you have a ping effect that can exile, it's not just combat damage. And once you had all 3 of these in play, you paid 1 to activate Helm of Kaldra. It says if you control equipment named Helm of Kaldra, Sword of Kaldra, and Shield of Kaldra, put a 4/4 colorless avatar legend creature token named Kaldra into play and attach those equipment to it. So then you've got this incredibly powerful Kaldra wielding all these pieces of equipment. Whereas Kaldra Compleat is kind of like a completed version of these all being together already. Though again, Kaldra Compleat's attached to a germ, and these are going to be attached to, well, Kaldra. Which ironically, that token of Kaldra doesn't exist. And actually, there are quite a few tokens that don't exist that I highlighted in this episode. That aside, the Germ token very much does exist, so if you want to play Kaldra Compleat, you have Germ tokens for it. And speaking of Germ tokens, let's talk about some cards that are somewhat comparable to Kaldra Compleat. So let's start off by talking about yet another powerful piece of equipment with Living Weapon with Batterskull. Batterskull costs 5 and 5 to equip, and again it's got Living Weapon, so it comes with a Germ token and it attaches to that. It says equipped creature gets +4/+4 and has Vigilance and Lifelink, and by paying 3 you can return Batterskull back to its owner's hand. So although I wouldn't say that Batterskull is a cheap piece of equipment, it is definitely less mana intensive than the new Kaldra Compleat. It costs 5 mana instead of 7, and again 5 mana to equip instead of 7. Now, +4/+4, Vigilance, and Lifelink are good, but obviously Kaldra Compleat is giving you slightly more. And again, on top of protecting itself, again, Kaldra Compleat also protects the creature. Batterskull does protect itself in a way, but you've got to pay 3 mana to bounce it back to your hand. Now, obviously, that can help you reset the Germ token if your Germ happen to die, so there's that. Now, will Kaldra Compleat see more play than Batterskull? I'm honestly not sure. Again, Batterskull is very effective and lower to the ground. But though Kaldra Compleat might cost more, it does have that dark steel plate kind of thing going on where it protects itself and your creature. So that could definitely make a difference when weighing options. Next up, let's talk about another living weapon that sees play in Commander with Bonehorde. Bonehorde costs 4 and it costs 2 to equip, and it says equipped creature gets +X/+X for X number of creature cards in all graveyards. So in your typical 1v1 game, yes, this can be a decent size. But in a game of Commander, yeah, this is gonna pump a ton. Now, typically this one sees play more so in certain types of decks that deal with either milling or getting creatures into graveyards, etc, etc. Now, I guess I should say also in equipment-focused decks as well, obviously. And then finally, another very deadly living weapon is Scytheclaw. Scytheclaw costs 5 and 3 to equip. It says whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So this thing is kind of small, but mighty. It might only get +1/+1, but when it hits really hard. Regardless, just as there are decks out there that want these types of living weapons, there are most definitely decks out there that are gonna want Kaldra Compleat. So let's talk about some of the commanders and types of commanders that might want to consider this card. First up, I have to bring up everyone's favorite, Arden. Okay, just kidding. Everyone's favorite is Rograk, but you know, Arden is a fantastic partner for him. Arden Intrepid Archaeologist is a 2/2 core scout for 2 and a white that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player. And then Rograk, son of Roga, who I like to call Rog, is a 0/1 kobold warrior with First Strike, Menace, and Trample, and it just costs 0. So a deck built around these partner commanders is looking to suit up Rog with a lot of powerful equipment. And though Kaldra Compleat would usually have an equip cost of 7, well, with Arden in play, we don't really have to worry about that. Because again, right when we get to combat, we can just say, yeah, let's just attach that to Rog. And while the First Strike and Trample is redundant because Rog already has those, the rest is going to be really nice. And also, it's just funny picturing Rog wielding all of Kaldra's equipment. Especially if you also have the actual equipment in the deck too, then you just, have double Kaldra's equipment somehow. Anyways, let's move forward. To Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale. She's a 5/5 human knight for 3 red, white, black. She has Vigilance and Menace, and whenever equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose 1 life, and equipment you control have equipped knight 0. So again, one of the major downsides to Kaldra Compleat is that big equip cost. Paying 7 mana to move that equipment onto something that you want to attach it to is quite a bit. So having a commander that can completely negate the cost like this is fantastic. So whether you have a Knight Tribal or Voltron deck, yeah, the Kaldra Compleat can do a lot of work in it. I mean, with a Voltron deck especially, by attaching this to Sir Gwyn, she becomes almost a 2-shot kill. And speaking of a 2-shot kill, or more likely a 1-shot kill, let's talk about Balan, Wandering Knight. Balan is a 3/3 cat knight with First Strike that costs 2 white white. Balan has double strike as long as 2 more equipment are attached to it. And by paying 1, you attach all equipment you control to Balan. So again, rather than pay the 7 mana equip cost for Kaldra Compleat, you can just pay, 2 mana and attach it with everything else. And yeah, a +5/+5 to Balan and all those other things is pretty fantastic. Because again, with just 1 more piece of equipment attached to it, it's gonna have double strike, and yeah, that's probably a 1 or 2 shot kill. Speaking of which, there's Halvar, God of Battle, which is somewhat similar. Halvar is a 4/4 god that costs 2 white white. He says creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. And at the beginning of each combat, you may attach target order equipment attached to a creature you control to target creature you control. Now, lucky for us, Kaldra Compleat already comes attached to a creature with a living weapon, so yeah, we can just move it for free. And if we move it on to Halvar, yeah, it's a 9/9 double strike with everything else. So again, since the key to the card is probably saving on equip cost, let's next talk about Nahiri the Lithomancer. Nahiri starts off at 3 loyalty and she costs 3 white. Her +2 is put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield. You may attach an equipment you control to it. Her -2 is you may put an equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. And her -10 is put a colorless equipment artifact token named Stoneforward Blade onto the battlefield. It has indestructible, equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has double strike and equip 0. And of course, Nahiri can be your commander. So Nahiri actually helps out in a lot of different ways with this card. First off, her -2 can just straight up get it into play for, free. Then if your germ dies or you just want to move it onto a 1/1, then yeah, you can +2 and do that. And of course, if you get to that +10, you can make that equipped creature even more deadly. But another commander that probably wants to consider Kaldra Compleat is a newly spoiled one from Adventures of the Forgotten Realms with Brunor Battle Hammer. It's a 5/3 human dwarf that costs 2 red/white. It has each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. And you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost for the first equipped ability you activate each turn. So again, since the equip cost of Kaldra Compleat is a big downside, this negates it. And so we can freely move that onto a creature, most likely it's going to be this commander. So then we've got an indestructible commander that does a lot of things, and it's got at the very least 12 power. Even more if we've got more equipment attached to it. Now, even a commander like Dalakos that doesn't completely negate the cost might want to consider it as well. Dalakos is a 2/4 Merfolk Artificer that costs 1 blue/red. He has tap, add colorless, spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. And equipped creatures you control have flying and haste. So Dalakos can not only help us cast Kaldra Compleat quicker, but he can also help us equip it on other things as well. On top of that, although Kaldra Compleat already gives haste to the equipped creature, it doesn't give flying, which Dalakos does. So now when our germ comes into play, it's going to be even deadlier with that flying. Now there are plenty of other commanders out there that could really utilize a card like Kaldra Compleat. And actually, depending on how your playgroup feels about it, this probably could actually just be a commander for you. Kinda how Grist is a creature elsewhere, this kind of also is a creature-ish because it says living weapon, so when it comes into play it makes a creature. I don't know, okay? Close enough. It's kind of like an unmander. Let's just go with that, alright? It's an unmander. So again, if your playgroup's okay with it and you want a Kaldra Compleat Voltron deck, go for it. But now it's time for me to wrap things up and give you my final thoughts on Kaldra Compleat. This equipment might be quite expensive and quite expensive to equip, but it does a lot of things and can have a big impact on the game. Again, like a Darksteel Plate, it not only protects itself, but also protects the creature that's equipping. So this can be a high impact card when it comes down and throughout the game. With the right commander wielding it, it can be extremely deadly, and again, if they can equip it for free, even better. And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.